My name is Lisa. I work in digital marketing in B2B software, currently working at Vim. We just moved to Yerevan. And the topic of our workshop today is growth hacking in digital marketing. So before we start, I want to know who we have here. So do we have some students? Raise your hands. Do we have some marketers? And do we have some business owners, maybe? Cool. Do we have some people who think we'll be hacking emails here? That's a bummer. So growth hacking, it's a buzzword that's been around for years now. So what do you think it is? Is it fancy word for marketing? Is it, magic? Or is it just calculation? What do you think? I agree with you, although my answer is 90% cold calculation, 10% magic, and we will see why. Well, we'll not see yet, but maybe we'll hear. Maybe we can send the presentation.
Yeah, if you have, for example, Gmail.
I couldn't log in. I'll just. So, I will give you the formula for growth marketing right away. I will not create a mystery around it. The formula is 3 steps: formulate hypothesis, test, and repeat. And how do we do that? Basically, in marketing, data is king. Everything is data-driven. And the way we find out things is by experiments. And in the presentation, I had a very scientific lady doing some chemical experiences because although marketing may seem like, you just launch something, you see if it works, it's not like that. It is a science, and you need significant data to prove something, to make any conclusion. Basically, growth hacking is a framework in which you can test a lot of marketing ideas or hypotheses. So another question for you, truth or false? I wanted to say truth or dare. Growth hacking is a new marketing tool or instrument. Who thinks it's true? Raise your hand. Nobody. Cool. I have a very educated group because it's not an instrument, it's an approach. Because we can use the same tools, the same platforms as we do in traditional marketing, but with different approach. I wanted to point it out because when people talk about growth hacking, they'll sometimes say that it's all about social media, or it's all about virality, or it's all about, your presence on YouTube. And it's not the case because you can use any platform or any marketing instrument and approach it with growth hacking mindset. So a few case studies, most famous ones of growth hacking. Actually, growth hacking is not a new thing. We've been hearing about it for the past maybe 5 years or so, but one of the first legendary growth hacking ideas or cases happened in 1995 with Hotmail. Does anybody remember Hotmail? No? Yeah. Remember it fondly. Don't use it, but there's one cool thing they did. So they got around 1 million users, which was pretty big at the time because the amount of internet users was not like today. But then they kind of hit the plateau and couldn't grow exponentially. And then one of the founders had this idea to include a signature in every email that says, I love you, sign up for free Hotmail. I don't think it took the developers very long to implement. I'm thinking 10 minutes to half an hour. And it sounds like a very silly thing, but it actually helped them skyrocket their users, and they grew to, I think, 12 million users within 15 months. So it seems like a very basic thing, but that's the thing about growth hacking, is that you need to find this golden nugget, this unicorn idea that is relatively easy to implement, not very expensive, and is a game changer. Why doesn't every business include I love you, get this signature in their emails? What do you think? Because this golden nugget idea is very specific to businesses. Otherwise, I don't know, it wouldn't work, so to say. So that's why there is no magic pill. I cannot tell you, do this, start this campaign, and you will grow exponentially. That's not how it works, and that's why it's called hacking. You need to find this tiny opportunity and take advantage of it. Another iconic case is Airbnb. And when they started, actually they had a forum happening in LA, I think, where the founders lived. And the city ran out of hotel rooms. So the founders were like, well, let's just find people with apartments and rent them out. So that's how the platform started. But they were lacking, first, users, second, reputation. Because if you sublet your apartment, you need to trust this platform, like we do now with Airbnb. And what they did two things, which turned out to be their golden nuggets. First is they hired professional photographers to take pictures of the apartments they already had listed. Because obviously, it was not like everyone had an iPhone 12, 13 that can take great pictures. Pictures were not that great at the time, and it was a game changer because it completely changed the product for the users when they book it. However, it was the smaller hack. The bigger hack is when they found a technical opportunity to link to Craigslist, which is like List AM. Basically, when you post your apartment on Airbnb, you can also post it on Craigslist, which Craigslist was not aware about, by the way, but it was technically possible. So by integrating, they gained access to huge database, because Craigslist is huge in US. And by the time Craigslist got wind of that and, banned that integration, they were already famous. Maybe when you think about like giants, especially technological giants, maybe something like that comes to mind. That was, very small, very easy, but changed everything. Anyone?
I don't know if it's a good example or not, but I remember it was something like maybe 15 years ago. There was a company, I think it was called Winfiles.com, something like that, and they had software, free of charge software was collected there. It was like a fantastic archive. Everyone loved it, and it was free. So for some time I was thinking, so what is it about? What they are earning and why they are doing such a huge job and like everything for free? But then I realized that it was kind of targeted audience for them because they were selling hosting, I believe, all sorts of virtual hosting. So it was more or less IT audience going there, and the IT audience needed hosting. So then they were selling the hosting basically through all sorts of advertisements to this audience. This is how their model was working. So I thought it's pretty smart having kind of two hands. One was for free, attract huge audience, and through that they were selling their services.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if is it close to your examples were obviously much more interesting.
No, that is interesting because growth hacking is not necessarily about finding some, technical thing. It's about thinking out of the box and connecting the dots, which is exactly what happened in your example. And another case is with Dropbox, also a little bit not newish, but it's an iconic one because who remembers Dropbox? Okay, cool. So for those who don't, it's a file sharing system, yes. So basically like Google Drive, before Google Drive. So what they did, they started a referral program where when you refer the website to a friend and he signed up, you get gigabytes for free. It sounds really basic, right? But they were the first ones to do that. And it was called the best referral program in history in terms of results that it's driven. Because I don't have the numbers. Oh, I have the numbers. Thank you. I've covered that. So, yeah, Dropbox. Yeah, you can see that from here to here, they started the referral, and their numbers just skyrocketed. And this is very common thing now if you start some subscription service. Of course, you have a referral, or even if it's not a subscription, if you have, I don't know, a language school, you start Bring a Friend program. But at the time, that was a breakthrough. And this guy, Sean Ellis, who came up with this, actually is considered to be the father of growth hacking, partly because he came up with the term. Because as I told you, there were cases before, like with Hotmail, but he kind of coined the term. I told you about the Airbnb. And another case is LinkedIn. I'm sure most of you use it. The hack they use is gamification. So basically, when you check your LinkedIn, you get these notifications like your profile is 75% strong, fill in your courses, upgrade to experienced users, something like that. And that drives an urge, right? Like, I can be 100% or at least 90. So you're motivated to engage with the platform. And another gamification feature it has is the recommendation or endorsements, when you can endorse someone's skill. And it's the same very human feature that you want to get endorsed. And let's be true, we endorse others so that they endorse us, right? So yeah, that's the hack they used. And just to recap, with the Airbnb, the hack was product integration. So you find an environment to integrate your product with to reach new audience. With Dropbox, obviously the referral hack. And with Hotmail, the branding hack. Just get your name out there. But it also a little bit like referral because your friend is recommending, although they just were too lazy to remove the automatic signature. Okay. And the last case I wanted to tell you about is the Tinder hack. And it's not very widely known, but the way they started in the US is by organizing parties in colleges, and students could only attend if they sign up for this dating app, which created this sense of exclusivity. Because like, if it's just an app, yeah, you can upload it maybe later, but when there is gratification for that and where the sense of exclusivity, that just works. Referring to your case about targeting like very specific audience, students are great people to test dating apps on. Come on, everybody dates in college, so they created virality because everybody wanted to know what it is like. Why do you need this app to come to parties? That created awareness. Then people started recognizing the brand, and then they became what they are today. Just to recap, 3 main characteristics of the great marketing growth hack is it's very specific to business. It will not work to your neighbor's business. Or it might have worked, but you already used it. So it's not new anymore. It's easy to implement. It should not take a month of software developers working. Finally, it's relatively cheap. And because of the last 2 characteristics, growth hacking is most widely used by startups. I know that the cases I've given you are actually of giants, but that's just because, well, they worked and they helped them become the giants. And then because it's specific to every business, golden nugget, small businesses are not in a hurry to share their findings, let's say so. Because they're constantly experimenting and saying maybe if we change this, it works. If we change this, this will skyrocket our business. So that's why the cases we know are of already established huge companies. So like I mentioned, in digital marketing, we experiment and we have to validate these experiments. So here we have a framework. I think I will not dwell on that, but basically the main idea is that you need hard numbers. You cannot just say, well, I think it worked. I think people started recognizing us more. No, that doesn't work. You need analytics. You need numbers of why it worked. And if it doesn't work, you need numbers to see why, because it will help you produce better ideas in the future, understand your audience better. So even a failed experiment in marketing is not a failure, because it's information on your product, on your customers and their behavior. I often hear people discuss if growth hacking is part of marketing, if it's completely different. Like I told you, it's a different approach, but there are some key differences. With traditional marketing, we basically get the product. As we marketers, we get the product. We think, okay, I need to launch a campaign. Let me think of how I can advertise it. I cannot change the product as traditional marketer. In growth hacking, because it's a very flexible framework, ideally growth hackers can tweak the product a little bit. If they are like, well, this feature is not resonating, but we really need this feature, they can come to product marketing or product developers and say, hey, we need this as app. And also that's why it works best in startups, because they're normally more agile and flexible. Here are a few differences. I don't want to say that traditional marketing is bad. I work mostly in traditional marketing, and it works. It's normally based on years of experience. You have your know-hows, you know your product really well. You have your campaigns that are steady, stable. You can predict the results, which is great in business. But you cannot expect exponential growth. Growth is slow in this case. With growth hacking, you're flexible, you test hypotheses quick, and the chances are you will see exponential growth, but chances are you will not. There are no guarantees. And that's why it's important to make it like this idea factory of testing tons of ideas, because the more you test, the more information you get on your target audience, but also the higher the chances of finding something that will be a game changer for you. A little recap of hypothesis. You always need to formulate a hypothesis. So it's not like, let's add a chatbot and see what happens. The hypothesis is something like chatbot will increase engagement rate or conversation rate. So it's all about numbers, and you always need to have that metric that evaluates how it works. Obviously, it should be aimed at rapid growth, and we test it in an experiment. A couple of principles. Don't limit your work by certain ad instruments. For example, for you, Twitter works great. And you're like, well, I will not do anything else. This works great. Let's just focus on this. No, maybe you haven't found the right approach to email marketing. Doesn't mean you have to put it aside. And like I said, analytics, numbers are everything. That is king. And automate everything so you can put resources into your idea generation factory. And speaking of idea factories, here are some numbers on how many hypotheses the giants test every week. And that's a lot. Obviously, you need to have resources for that, a whole department. We're not talking small budgets here, but these are the giants that found hacks in the past that helped them skyrocket. For Uber, it was free rides, if you remember. So I think it's worth it. And finally, we're moving to more practical side of our workshop. And I wanted to show you a model of how you can implement growth hacking approach into your business, into your startup, into your idea. And it's called growth, not because I don't know how to spell growth, but because it's an abbreviation. First, we gather ideas. You brainstorm. It's better to brainstorm with the whole team. Every idea counts. There is no stupid idea. You basically need to generate as many hypotheses as possible and gather them. Secondly, we rate them. You agree on criteria in which you rate the ideas, and you create a priority list. And then you start an experiment or series of experiments, then work, make sure everything works correctly and you get good results. And then we study the data, and well, if your hypothesis worked, congratulations. If not, congratulations, you got great data on your audience. So you analyze it, and you come back to your list of priorities, and repeat. And when you run out of priorities, brainstorm again. So this is the formula I gave you in the very beginning. I hope it makes more sense now. Formulate hypothesis, test, repeat. And I wanted to do an actual growth hacking session with you. Imagine we have a product. We are a startup of quite many people. We have an app, an augmented reality app that creates interior design models. So before designing anything or buying anything, you can see everything in augmented reality and plan your design. And you can also shop from the app, buy furniture or construction stuff. That's it. And so I have a short form for you. You can see it on the right. So you can scan the QR code, or there's a short link below. So basically, I want you to give your idea of what could be our golden nugget, what could be the unicorn. Anything we can do that is easy to implement, not very expensive, but can bring us a lot of users, customers, awareness. It can be any result, but it needs to be measurable and significant. So just fill in the form, write your idea shortly, and then there are 3 criteria. So just rate it in terms of cost, if it's cheaper or more expensive, if it's quick to implement or take some time, and what do you think the potential impact would be. Just rate it based on how you feel about it. Obviously, in real growth hacking session, we would need more objective criteria, but just for the sake of the experiment, let's do it like this. Yeah. Just a second problem. Just a second problem. We're starting to see some responses. So just think back on the tactics we saw, like the referral hack, the branding hack, gamification. What else was there? Integration hack, and the exclusivity hack. It doesn't have to be within those lines, because you're thinking out of the box. But, okay, we're already seeing the ideas. Remember, every idea counts. There is no stupid idea, and every idea can be the unicorn. Okay, let's have 3 more ideas. Come on, people. Brainstorm. Think of what other things or services people who are planning their design use. What apps they use, what they're interested in, how they are planning their design, anything, where they shop. Okay. Nie. Женя, обнови, пожалуйста. Okay, so we got our 5 ideas. That's a good start. So basically, remember the model. First, generate ideas, which we just did. Second is rate them, and that's why I asked you to rank them based on this criteria, because then we'll calculate them. Sorry. And basically, the smaller the number, the better, because it needs to be cheap, it needs to have a lot of potential impact, and it needs to be fairly quick to implement. So what we do is, sorry.
Sorry, but isn't potential impact, the higher it is, the better the idea?
Yeah, but let me just check the form. The 1 stood for big impact, and 5 for small impact.
Okay.
So I designed it that way so it's easy to calculate. Yeah, but that's a good point. Yeah, always check the numbers. All right. I can share the form again. So potential impact 1 is big impact, and 5 is small impact. So the smaller our total number is, the better, basically.
It just shows that even people in marketing don't know how to answer surveys or don't read it properly.
Yeah, good point. Well, maybe our data then is not 100% statistically significant, but okay, we'll work with it. In reality, we would need to do it all over again. We get more answers. So we have our first batch of ideas that we just baked all together, and we rated them. So basically, the first ones we'll be implementing are the ones that are cheaper, faster, and promising more impact. The first one is watermark with trademark, which is really easy to implement, cheap, and yeah, it can have a very big impact because people will share their designs. Partner with adult services providers. Not sure what it means.
It means, I guess the one who just wanted to say you can send it to Pornhub or something like this.
Well, that's creative. I'll give you that.
Just it was not like the idea,
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's something that even if there is a competing ad in the market, competing app in the market, probably they will not think about, but yeah, that...
I can try to explain.
Sure.
It's basically an idea to see the content in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
I think more or less it's like pictures and cameras. Nowadays, I'm not sure there is a virtual reality, so it might be interesting. And as there are lots of money in this business, might be something interesting to try.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because the goal of our hacks is to reach huge audience fast. So that might work. Share mood board on Instagram. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's similar with the trademark idea. Just share the content, maybe motivate people in the app to share their designs with friends, and gain brand awareness. Pinterest, amazing for any visual content.
That is like the best place to target all those who are looking for some design and the ones who are actually selling the design.
Yeah.
This is a win-win situation for both.
Yeah. The one comment I would have, or another idea to test, is maybe, I'm not sure if the person who wrote this, if you meant like a paid ad.
Why not? Just test out and then create simply boards. Just to have the traction.
Yeah, yeah. Just let's be mindful of the budget, because paid campaigns can eat up a lot of budget. But if we said, okay, we test this amount, we have the metrics, we analyze the data, see if it works or not, and continue, then yeah, absolutely. Give demos in big malls, quickly show random animals during demo to give discount to those who spotted them all. That is awesome, because that's quite unique. That has the potential to go viral, because people will talk about it. It might need some investments, might need some time to make the agreement with the malls, but it could also be not in a mall, somewhere else. So that way you can develop an idea and add more ideas to our list. Affiliate with IKEA. Yeah, ideally the same way Airbnb did it without IKEA knowing. But yeah, perhaps like an official partnership would be a very dragged out affair, because IKEA is a giant and it's quite bureaucratic. But if we have this like animal trick or something very, very catchy that will benefit them, yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yeah, so that wraps up our exercise. Open to any questions. Anyone? Yeah?
Are there companies who are specializing in growth hacking, whom one can hire to do that job for them?
Yes, they are. One is Growth Tribe, who developed the model I showed you. There are many more. It is a possibility. However, it's kind of the same dilemma as with having like marketers in-house or hiring an agency. In agency, they do have a lot of experience, a lot of case studies, but they will not have likely that deep of an understanding of your product and your audience as an in-house specialist. And at least in my experience, they tend to use the same formula, which makes sense. They have a ton of clients. If this works, let's use it. But with growth hacking, it's not ideal, because you need a very deep understanding of your client, your product, how it's better than your competitor. So in my opinion, an in-house growth hacker it just makes more sense. But they are agencies. I haven't worked with any, so I cannot give you any data-driven answer. But logically, it's better to have a growth hacker. Anyone else?
How adopted is it in the industry? And when you say it's good to have a growth hacker, does that mean that it's like a marketing title at this point, and there's a person who specializes purely on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a job title. There are some companies who hire growth hackers, but it's not a very clear framework like we have with, I don't know, even with traditional marketing. You have your social media manager, you have your PPC specialist, etc. With growth hacking, there is no clear definition industry-wide of what growth hacker should do. In some companies, they organize the process and guide it. In some companies, they are the ones generating ideas and testing them. So it really depends on the company, how it works. There is no like industry standard. But there are job titles like that, and if you say you're a growth hacker, people will recognize that. I don't think there is any formal education yet, but there are obviously courses and workshops.
Are there any books that you would recommend?
There is a book by Sean Ellis, the Dropbox guy. So like I told you, he kind of coined the whole term, and he wrote a pretty good book. I don't remember the name exactly, but if you Google Sean Ellis growth hacking, you will find it. So that's kind of the Bible. Yeah.
So actually we had this cycle in my organization, formulating hypothesis, test and repeating, and the problem was that when you have your business running, you can think about like a production line, right? Then you say now we start experimenting with it. It disrupts everything and everyone, and no one is happy about it. Because they used to do their job, they have 8 hours to work, and then on top of it you say now you change template, you do this, you do that, no one's like it. And it all then becomes costs and frustrations. From other side, there was an idea that one should create a lab, allocate fresh people to it, completely dedicated to people to it, and then whatever they do, it's like, it's on the right side. Obviously that also has its pros and cons, because it's also lots of money. Who are these people? If you take them from the production, then there are the holes over there. If you bring new people, then they will need to learn the whole thing. So is there a recommendation or best practice or a method where you decide if you do this way or that way, or there is maybe a third, fourth way to do that?
That's a very good point, that if the same people are responsible for running things smoothly and growth hacking, though nobody will be happy, there will be interruptions. I would say, and I've seen this with the companies I worked with on growth hacking, because they developed ideas, it was all great, and then the people who were already overworked were given this hypothesis, so they launched them. Like, they launched one, they waited 2 weeks, they launched the second one, they didn't have time to analyze the results, so, and it didn't work, and it was not growth hacking per se, because it needs to be this factory. I know I'm repeating this metaphor, but that just explain it very well. So in my opinion, it's better to have a separate person responsible for that, who is not involved in day-to-day operations. And the lab idea actually sounds pretty great, because growth hacking at its core depends on generating ideas. And we all know that after you worked in the same business for years, you're kind of jaded. You're like, well, this will probably not work. We tried something similar. So you can also get a bit of a blind eye because you work with it all the time. So that's why fresh blood is really great, and maybe it can be part of onboarding program for people, new people, when they are getting to know the business, to just generate these ideas, and then the business should have some framework to test everything in a proper way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you share how you decide on a segment of customers on which you do the testing? And also, can you share an example of the growth hack that you did in Beam for that type of business, and the data behind it?
Yeah. How do you decide on the segment? It depends on your hypothesis. If you think this will work for all your customers. You can test it on everyone just in order to make the experiment really quick. If you have a segmented audience and like you have the returning customers that are maybe kind of fading, they're slowly going away, and you have a hypothesis on how to retain them, you test it on that. So it all depends on your idea, on the hypothesis. And as for growth hack I had, let me just find it. Oh, no, it's not here. It was not in Vim. It was in Netrix, another IT software company I worked in, and we use, well, like many companies like that, use white papers to gain brand awareness. So educational content for people who use this software. And the kind of industry standard is that if you're running cybersecurity product, it's very serious. System administrators are very serious. You need to have this strict design that is just straight to the point. This white paper is about this, solve this problem. And it was running okay, and I had the idea that we can use creative designs in this sector too, because people are people and everybody first reacts with emotions. So we designed a creative campaign with Spider-Man reading a book, and it said superheroes need to learn too. And we advertised these white papers through it. And to be honest, it took me a while to get it approved because all the management were like, no, this is not how IT, B2B, cybersecurity business works. We need to have everything very strict. So I tested it against our normal formal ads, and they had, I think, 2.5 lower cost per lead. Let me just see it. Yeah, the cost per lead was 2.5 times lower, and the conversion rate stayed the same. And then in the long term, we generated the same amount of pipeline or sales per lead, but because cost per lead was lower, the ROAS was higher. So that worked. The company kept using more creative banners for their ads, and yeah. Any more questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.